Alright, so today is something special. I'm going to do my deck profile for Laval's going into the next format. A lot of things have to be changed because Blaster going to 1 hurt the deck a lot, but it still functions just fine. I just got back from a locals and I got it tested out and it works very well, went undefeated. So I'm going to show you guys what I ran and I'll explain some of the stuff because a lot of it is not intuitive. Or it just seems kind of weird to people who might play levels a lot themselves. But ladies first, we have the 2 Lakeside Ladies, 3 Handmaidens, 2 Cannoneers, and then 3 Cannons. That's should be pretty standard for level lineup. Not too much to explain there. Also pretty standard will be now your 1 Blaster. I also run 1 Pyrex. Pyrex is a little bit, it's more of a tech really. I like it because there's less action cards now that Blaster's at 1. He's very powerful. He's normally always actually game when you bring him out, and you have a lot of things to manipulate the graveyard, so hitting 5 isn't that hard, and you have things to protect yourself if you actually have to skip your battle phase, which honestly doesn't happen much. For consistency, you need to run the 3 Cardies. You don't always like running 3 of them because you most of the time want them turn 1, but there's some things in here where Cardie is actually good later on, so I run them at 3. That's how I like it. Some extra fire monsters, Fire Dog, Boost Warrior, and Spirit of Flames. These are kind of one-ofs. Fire Dog is very good because he lets you set up your graveyard as well, just in case you don't hit a conduction field or anything. You can run over something early, and then you can make a stun on after if Maiden is in your hand. You could go into Laval chain, and then dump everything and you're good. He's a lot of damage early on. He's kind of threatening too. I like him a lot. He's also just a level 4 rekindling target, which works for a lot of things. Boost Warrior, he's mostly for the Quasar plays. He really does make Quasar a lot easier because he's a free special summon, and you can search him out with Rhoda. A lot of times you'll find Quasar plays are actually a lot harder when you have to use your normal summon on your level 1 because sometimes Maiden will be in your hand. Another Maiden will be in your hand, and that makes it harder, but Boost Warrior, since he's a special summon, he's fine. You can also pitch him with stuff like Blaster, so he's not really dead in the hand ever, and he's rekindleable so you don't lose out on anything. And lastly, if you go Cannon into Lakeside Lady, if you have Boost Warrior in your hand, you can upgrade that from a level 7 Synchro play to a level 8 Synchro play, and that's really important for stuff like the Mermail matchup where you can get out a Crimson Blader early, and that's something that is very powerful with that. And then lastly, Spirit of Flames. He is just to help with extra rank 4 plays. He makes Ancient Flammable Deity because he's a Pyro, and he also, if like Cannon gets Veiler or something, you can use him. If you don't have an immediate banish outlet, you can banish with him. So he's pretty good. He's also a free level 4 special summon, which really helps out with extra rekindling plays. And then hand traps, we have 2 Maxi, 2 Trigodia, 1 Gores, and 1 Battle Fader. Some things that make a lot of people don't really like Trigodia in the deck. I think for this format he does a lot of work. A lot of the current decks right now are level 4 centric, which means that with the extra level 4s in this deck, if you draw into a Cannoneer or a Fire Dog or Spirit of Flames or anything, you can pitch it and you steal their level 4. You can go into level chain, it sets up. Even if you can't do anything like that, he's a early game. If you're not set up, he's going to be 24 to 3,000 defender. You can fight with him. You can sit on him. He's just a card that actually does something, whereas if you max out on a Battle Fader or a Scarecrow, you're just going to protect yourself for a turn, but it doesn't do anything for you unless your hand is already there. Gores is really good. Maxis are really good. I do run the 1 Fader because he is a level 1. And a lot of people wonder why Fader, why not Scarecrow, and that's another thing that goes back and forth. The reason I run Fader is for the same reason that I like Boost Warrior with the Cannon plays. If Fader is still on the field, then you can go Cannon, Lady, and then make a level 8 instead of a level 7, which you may want the option to do a lot of the time, so that's why I run 1 Fader. And that does it for the monster lineup. The spells are a bit more standard, 3 Rekindling, 3 conduction field, 3 duality. You might think 3 duality, 3 card D is a bit overkill, and you might think it clogs. But what makes it all work out is 1 day a piece. This lets you kind of use all your setup cards later in the game and you don't have to worry about dying. And then the rest of the one-ofs, Rhoda, Book of Moon, Forbidden Lands, and MST. You don't need too much back row hate because Lakeside Lady will be doing most of it for you, and you also have Blaster to pop. Lance is kind of like MST, but it works with Fire Dog, so it's a bit better. Book of Moon is probably the most versatile spell in the deck. You can pop something with Lady, you can run over it with Fire Dog, you can actually, this guy is it's normal summon or flipped up, so if they Veiler it, you can actually chain Book, and then you'll still get your effect, and then if you can protect it, like let's say you went to a Stenon or a Blader or something that limits their plays, and then if you can flip it up the next turn, then you still get the effect again, and that's really good. And then the 2 traps I run are Breakthrough Skill and Trap Stun. Just a couple texts there. And that's the main deck. And if we go into the extra deck, we have 1 Formula Synchron for Quasar plays, Librarian, this card should be banned, it nets you way too much off of a Rekindling play. 1 Laval Dragon, also, our deck's themed to Bryanak, it's absolutely disgusting. Level Dual Slasher, this guy's really good, kills Draco Sack tokens, he also has the 200 defense, so you can go into him later. And Armades. Armades is a recent addition, he's actually put in a lot of work for a couple of reasons. He really helps with the Bujin matchup, which is popular, he helps with the Girgia matchup, which is popular. The very existence of Armades actually kind of wins the Girgia matchup for you, because let's say you have a cannon and a conduction field, and they go first and they set Girgia armor, right? And you go conduction field, you dump everything, you banish Lady and Maiden to kill the armor. That's 1 armor down. And then let's say next turn they even have another armor and they play the next armor. You can go cannon, get Maiden, go into this guy, run over it, they don't get the effects, and you just stop them from setting up for 2 turns, and at that point, unless they have a bunch of Girgia gears in their hand, it's going to be really hard for them to do anything. Level 7s, we have Black Rose Dragon, Laval Stenon, Ancient Flamvel Deity. Deity is the hardest to make because you need a Pyro as your non-tuner, but he wins a lot of matchups on his own. If you can banish a bunch of things, he's very good, he's very strong. If you can, he's also a rekindling target, which that part doesn't come up as much because he's normally a bit of a commitment to make in the first place, but it is really helpful if you are later into the game and you're using a rekindling for a second time. Level 8's Scrap Dragon and Crimson Blader. These are just the only 2 I use. You could use the other ones, but these are the best ones. And then Quasar. You don't really need Shooting Star Dragon. Most of the time when you're going to Quasar, you should be pushing for game that turn. It's really risky, or it was risky in previous formats to just Quasar and end it because people would be able to bait it and then big eye you or something. That might not end up being the case in this format now that dragons have been hurt, but I still don't think Shooting Star Dragon is necessary. And then for the Xyz plays, we have Laval Chain. This card, it sets up everything for you. It also can get Blaster out your deck since Blaster is only at 1 now. And Maestroke, this is the alt to Ophion, and it you can also set things to pop with Lady. And then these have been my proxies for Draco Sack and Big Eye. Normally I just borrow them at events because they're just too expensive for me. Draco Sack and Big Eye, they're not as necessary now that Blaster is at 1, but it also still works with Tragodia, and it has a really nice grind game with Level Stenon. If these cards are out your price range, kind of like they're out of mine, you have a couple other options that you can run, like just other level 8s like Colossal Fighter, Thought Ruler, Stardust, or maybe even Excalibur. This guy you can go cannon to cannon. Very good for OTKs. But if you can get Draco Sack or Big Eye, that's what I would recommend. And that's the extra deck. And then lastly, just the side deck that I ran. It's mostly tailored just towards the few bad matchups this deck has, because honestly levels only lose to a couple things, and then the rest of the time it's just making sure your hands are playable and knowing what to do at the right time. So 2 Medion, fits with the fires, and it's good against Ophion. Consecrated Light deals with Inzectors, Inzectors aren't that scary, but it also deals with Infernity, it deals with Evil Swarm, and it's a level 1 that you can always use for Quasar plays. 3DD Crow, another level 1. It just hits a lot of things. It also hits Infernity, so you can do something when they're going first against you. The 1 extra MST, you don't really need too many MSTs, but it's always good to have them just for the lone defissure and stuff like that. 3 Decree for the trap heavy stuff, you can just go off. 2 Fiendish Chain, also for stuff like Ophion and Christia and anything that's going to lock you out. And then lastly, 3 Gozen Match. Now, Gozen Match, it was mostly in there for dragons, but it may not be as necessary in the next format. A lot of things that some people are looking to do are DNA surgery. You might want to get a DNA surgery instead of a Gozen Match. I'm thinking about switching back to it, because that'll hurt Prophecy, it'll hurt Fire Fist, it'll hurt Bujin, it'll hurt a lot of things actually. And one thing you can do with Fire Fist, or with DNA surgery rather, that's really good, is you can call either Pyro and then make Ancient Flamebelt Deity a lot easier. Or you could actually call something like Dinosaur. You could make a Cannon play or a Fire Dog play, and then you could go into log your Dolka. So that's another option you have instead of the rank 7s. And yeah, that's basically my deck list going into 2014. A couple tech changes might have to happen if other stuff comes up, but it worked really well at the locals last week, and I am really comfortable with how it's playing right now. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked this deck profile, I'm happy to do more in the future, and that'll be it.